Okay, welcome back. This is video 14 in the PEAR PHP tutorial series, which is brought to you by Imagination Everywhere and RIA Institute. I am Amin Mojara, and we're in a segment of our series dealing with the Structures DataGrid. This is actually video number 4 and video number 13. Or 13, no, it's video number 14, I'm sorry. And we're gonna start to go over in detail features of the Structures DataGrid. So let's dive into it with our first example. If we go ahead right here, we are on this page right here, the Zen Developer Zone, and the author is showing us how to basically render the grid. These are all the data source drivers we're going to need for these examples. The array, the CSV, the MBD2, the RSS, and the XML data source drivers. The renderers we're going to use are the sort, HTML sort form, the HTML table, and the pager, and the XML. The first example we're going to do is example number 1, which is using the array as a data source, and this is this example right here. And so I'm going to go ahead and pull this up in the expression web, and as you can see, I put in using an array as the data source. First thing you want to do is you always want to go ahead and set your error handling, and your expression web allows us to create a code snippet, so I don't have to keep writing this because we're going to basically use this in every web page that we have, for the error handling. Here's the include one statement. We're going to use the Structures DataGrid on this, and we need that because we want to render and we want to be able to take advantage of the data sources that it uses. And here's the array. The array is created using a variable called data, and within this array we have more arrays. Now these arrays each represent a row. The columns, on the other hand, are represented by the first element, and then if you see this after the first element, this equal sign and this greater sign, then that means it's a column. So we have a column named city, and as you can see in each row we have a column named city, and then the element that comes after this equal sign and this greater sign is what's going to be going. That's what's going to go under that column. So we got London, Paris, Madrid, and Hamburg going under the column city. Then we have another column called sales, and then in that we have these numbers for the sales column. And remember, now the sales and city columns are going to be side by side. Then we have market share as a column, and then in this we have the elements, the data that fills the market share column is 14, 24, 6, and 57. So all of these, and they all correspond to one record. So the array, this array is a record, this array is a record, this array is a record. So we have 4 records here. Then we're going to set error handling for if there's any problem with our PEAR Structure DataGrid class or anything like that, it'll be able to let us know that there's an error in there. Then we go ahead and create a data grid using the variable DG, which I guess stands for data grid, and then new Structures DataGrid. Then we are using the bind method right here. This is a function. If we take all this other stuff out of here and just leave the 2 parentheses, the bind method is how you bind data using the array driver. So first we're gonna call the variable data. Then within that, the driver that we're gonna be using is the array. And then the class is going to be this right here, the array, and the array comes from the Structures DataGrid data source array. That's why we spell it array. And so this array right here corresponds to this array. This is the actual data source driver that it's using, and it's following the rules of this package right here, this package under the data source drivers. So and then the final thing is that we have the render method. Remember I told you that the bind has also these two parentheses, and it's in the bind method has the data, the array, and the array package in there. Well, the render by default has the HTML table, so that's why there's nothing in there. But you can put CSV or let's see, we have different other render. We have the HTML sort form, the pager, the Smarty, the XML, the CSV, the console. If you wanted to open up a console application and to display this data, we know now based on the last 2 videos ago when we populated the database using the command line right here, this piece of software right here, that we know that we can display data within this. So that's basically what the render method is showing us, is that if we wanted to put something other than the HTML table, which is like I said by default, then we can do that. So let's go ahead and run this and see what happens. Voila! So there you go. You see the 3 columns: the city, the sales, and the market share, and then you see the records that make up the rows. And basically you can sort. The other thing that's good about the DataGrid class, once you get a chance to explore the actual class, look into it. This right here, represents the link. Basically you have the city link, and you can sort them. You can sort them by ascending or descending. Same with sales. Same with market share. So I mean, there's as you can see the power of the Structures DataGrid. Instead of having to write SQL queries saying that if this is clicked, using all these if conditional statements, we don't have to do any of that. All we have to do is just put the data within a data source in a rendering method, and basically this probably would have taken us about 10 to 15 minutes. Basically it took us 10% of that. So that's basically this is the first tutorial on HTML table. I just wanted to really explain to you what's going on, and you have to have experience writing PHP. If you had experience writing PHP and writing SQL statements, you know how much time this is saving you. So the array method, the array data source driver, is a very good way of displaying data that you don't need to change on a web page. You can put it on a static web page. You can use get and post methods to add rows and to add records to this. It's a very good data driver to use, and of course we're going to get into more detail about using the HTML table. So I look forward to seeing you in the next tutorial, and I hope you enjoyed this one.